Join me, Mark Windows, for Windows on the World live every Sunday, 9 to 11 p.m. GMT. Check out our archive and program stream at windowsontheworld.net. Welcome to this special from Windows on the World. Ancient Australia is the subject. I'm going to be talking to Stephen Strong and probably his son Evan in Australia. And we're going to be talking about human origins and more. This show is going to link up with another show, which I'm going to be putting out very soon at windowsontheworld.net. Incidentally, join us every Sunday, 9:30 p.m. UK time, windowsontheworld.net on the live shows page. All of our shows then go to Odyssey. They originate on a platform called Spreaker. You can subscribe to those at windowsontheworld.net on the home page. So I'm going to bring in Stephen now, and we're going to be chatting about ancient Australia. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, how are you, Mark?
I'm pretty well. We've just been talking about what's going on in the world and the drivers of global change. And we're going to talk about something first that's really important, which is origins, basically where we came from. And there's this theory that has been put through universities and is still repeated globally by all academics, the out of Africa theory. Can you tell us a bit about your experience in the out of Africa theory and your out of Australia theory?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, yes, universities, schools, and all these people are still selling this theory. It was always a theory. But I do know that recently, very important academics, Chris Stringer comes to mind, Robert Bednarik and others are saying, no, it's a hoax. In fact, Robert Bednarik, who's considered the top archaeologist in this country, said it's the greatest hoax past Piltdown Man because it's changed the way people think and made them dismiss so many different alternatives to what actually took place. So, yes, it's a major issue. But past that, I want to look at it not so much because there's a lot of genetic evidence right now that's been turning up all the time and there's so many different hominins. I want to look at it to begin with just from a purely common sense point of view before we drag the science in. And let's look what this theory says. When I was at school, and I was a school teacher both in primary and high school, I was forced to tell the children there that around 150 to 200,000 years ago in Africa, two apes got together. They don't tell us whether they're orangutans or which ones they are, or whether they're chimps or from somewhere. Anyway, it's in Africa, which means it's probably not orangutans. Those two apes came together and they created an offspring, which is the hominid offspring. Now, this is where the problems begin. Number one, all hominins are distinguished by one binding factor, and that is what's called sutures. Now, why are sutures important? Because sutures mean that the brain is not fused together. Now, remember, all monkeys, all apes, all primates have a sagittal keel, which means that their brains can never grow larger. And that creates a problem because all hominids, be they Lucy, be it Dragon Man, be it Neanderthal, be it Denisovan, be it Homo sapien, all of them, and there are around 16 different types at the moment, have sutures. And that is how their brains are larger. Now, the mum and dad theoretically don't, and they don't. So that's the first problem. But there's a different problem that I think is even more contradictory. And let's look around the world today. And let's first of all look at chimps, which could be something close to what they're thinking about as our mummy and daddy. And if there are chimps, let's look at a chimp today. And it really doesn't matter which one you look at, you're going to get roughly the same picture. What color is their hair? Brown, reddish brown. Their eyes, brown. Their facial features, it's a round face. They're all round faces. And how tall do they stand? Well, the males are a little bit taller than the females. What's their weight? Roughly the same. And if I look around the world, let's just go past the chimps for a sec. Let's look at the zebras. You put a group of zebras together and ask someone to distinguish them, you're going to have a problem. In fact, if you go around and you look at any purebred animal, I'm not talking about the ones we've fiddled around with genetically, because that's the point in this game. You will find the speed they move at, their facial features, their height, their weight, everything about them is roughly the same. And then you look at the Homo sapiens sapiens, and we've got 7 billion at the moment. And all of their faces have 2 eyes, 1 nose and a mouth. And yet 7 billion humans all look different. Now, here's the major point here, ladies and gentlemen. Every other animal on this planet takes on the same general form. But humans can weigh 40 kilos and they can weigh 400 kilos. They can stand 1/2 meter tall. They can stand 2.5 meters tall. Some can run at 30 k's, some can't run. All our finger patterns are different. Our retinal patterns are different. And our heartbeat rhythm is different from every other human. In fact, humans only share one thing in common: nothing. We are so diverse, yet we're told we come from the same monkey father and the same monkey mother, and they all look the same. And all of a sudden, from the time of conception, we start off, and it turns out that whether it's Denisovan, whether it's Neanderthal, whether it's Sapien, we all came from that particular seminal moment. And then we turned into at least 17 different types of hominins, and within each of them, we have 7 billion different faces. Explain to me logically how we can come from a race that is all the same, a genetic base that is all the same, and every other being and a life form on this planet looks roughly the same except for humans. For me, under every conditions, that doesn't make sense. It's a contradiction in logic. And yet to this day, people will go around and tell you, oh yeah, it's pretty obvious. We all came from the same monkey, father and mother. And it happened 250 or 150,000 years ago, but that's wrong.
Well, it's also overlooking something else, Stephen. You did a great introduction there, by the way. But of course, we're talking about creatures that are much more robust, much more adapted to their environment than we are. We have to wear clothes, live inside. We have thin bones. Our joints wear out. We can't hang off trees as soon as we're born. Somebody brought this up the other day, and they said, oh, yes, but a baby has a really iron type grip for a few hours. And I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense even to say that, because we're talking about creatures, as soon as they're born, they're ready to go. They can jump from tree to tree.
The monkeys, man, within 3 hours, they're ready to run around. And look at a human baby. For the first 9, 10, 11 months, it lays in a cot and does nothing. And somehow every other animal on this planet is capable of moving and feeding within hours of birth. And here's our species, and we're supposed to come from the monkeys. They're all fine, and our babies are useless. I mean, for 12 months, they are just a laying blob of flesh. I mean, that's a bit crude, I do admit. I do apologize to the mothers here, might be a bit offended by that. But that is, you're very right about that. It doesn't matter what comparison you make to all the different types of life on this planet. We contradict every law. It doesn't make sense that we could be part of that. And it's really obvious to me. I mean, quite recently, as you probably know, we've made a discovery of a hominin. Well, it's not a hominin because it's got no sutures, but it's got a brain size of about 1800 cc. And
yes, this is a great thing to bring in at this particular point, and very exciting discovery. And of course, one that's been completely ignored and ridiculed in the media, as usual.
Well, because the government have been different. They've sent me multiple threats to put me in jail, so they haven't ignored me. They've been much more accommodating towards what we found. But we found 4 of these in Australia, and once you go past the eyebrows, there's nothing. It slopes backwards. The whole of the skull runs backwards, below and beneath, which means about 3% of the brain is above the eye and 97% is below it. That's not like us.